Where is Everyone? By RevBlackRage. Today started like every day. My phone started playing the song Johnny Cash Has Died at 3 AM. Time to get up. My morning routine went normally. Roll over. Kiss the wife, who grumbles out her usual sleepy wishes of a good day at work and declarations of love. I return them, switching out a wish of a good day at work for a good day at the house with the kids. She goes back to sleep. I got up. I put on my flame-resistant work uniform. I brushed my teeth while taking a pee. Didn't bother with shaving because it's the weekend and nobody who gives a shit about facial hair will be on site. I pour coffee into my mug, the one that proclaims "Stay back 100 meters or you will be shot" in English and Arabic, and in little tiny print underneath, Camp Fallujah, Fallujah, Iraq, a relic from my glory days. I checked on the boys, asleep in their beds, at least 2 hours yet to sleep before they had to get up for school. I checked on the baby, she was still asleep, twisted into one of those bizarre sleeping positions that infants manage to roll into, that you look at and just go, how the hell is that comfortable? I walked out of my garage, lighting a cigarette as I went, to the Ram 1500 sitting in my driveway. I stopped for a moment as I opened the door. It was quiet, very quiet. There is a highway about 4 blocks from my house, a fairly major one, the kind that you find yourself on, sitting in a traffic jam, at 1 in the morning. I had subconsciously gotten used to the noise from it over the past few years, my lower mind sifting it from the incoming data my sensors provided. When the highway noise was no longer present, it stuck out like a pink house in a neighborhood full of beige houses. It was odd, but no cause for immediate concern. One of those things where you shrug and say, huh, and get on with your life. The 5.7 litre Hemi V8 sounded a lot louder than it usually was in the dead silence. As I brought the truck to life, I plugged in my phone into the Ram's stereo, pulled up an old episode of the god-awful 5-star podcast, and pulled out my driveway. I wasn't really listening to the podcast, just using it as background noise. I'm not a fan of quiet drives. I pulled onto the main road out of my neighborhood. A few blocks of big box stores, strip malls and gas stations brings me to the highway. I noticed that the streets were empty, devoid of traffic. That wasn't rare though, at this time of the morning, so I paid it no mind. You have to go under the freeway to get to the northbound feeder road, which I take to get up onto the freeway. There is a 4-way stoplight before going under the overpass, which is usually red when I pull up to it, and it was no different this morning. It gave me a chance to look around. Now if you have ever been to a larger city, you know that homeless people are a constant. Any well-built underpass usually has a few of them living in it. Little camps that are usually nothing more than a shopping cart filled with random things. A few bags maybe, and usually a few blankets and sleeping bags. Sometimes a tarp or two. I noticed that a few of these little camps were present. However, the occupants were not. This was nothing too concerning either, as they sometimes got rousted by the police or the highway department. I pulled onto the freeway itself. Now this is where I started getting a weird feeling. Usually I shared my morning commute with the nighttime truckers and drunk drivers coming back from wherever drunk drivers come from, but there wasn't another vehicle as far as I could see. Usually I see headlights or taillights in the distance, but I saw nothing. Alone in the world, I remember chuckling to myself. I kept waiting for another set of headlights to pop up in my mirrors, looking to the other side of the freeway as well, almost hoping to see something coming towards me. It never came. I took the tollway exit, moving through the EZ tag lane. I looked at the booth, on the lane for people to pay with cash. I didn't see anyone in the booth, which was odd. They are usually always manned. I merged onto the tollway proper. I breathed a sigh of relief as I saw the first movement of the morning, a shape trudging along the side of the tollway in the morning darkness. It looked like a man, in a dark hooded cloak, like a monk would wear. He stopped and watched my truck drive by. I couldn't see a face in the hood. That hood was a void of darkness, and I felt my gaze drawn to it. I realized that I was slowly pulling my truck towards the side of the road as I watched the monk in the rear view mirror. I got pretty close to the Jersey barriers that lined the sides of the tollway, before I realized what I was doing. "Oh, poop," I mumbled, as I pulled the truck back into its lane and putting my attention back on the road. I mostly forgot the monk, as I live in a big city, and people do weird things in big cities. The rest of the drive to work was fairly uneventful, and I mean that literally. Nothing happened. No cars, no people. I even noticed that there weren't any plane signal lights across the night sky. Weird, because there are 3 airports and an Air National Guard base in my city. I pulled into the parking lot of my site. I was almost overjoyed to see the cars in the parking lot. The cars all belonged to the graveyard shift workers, and I parked and got out of my truck. I looked up at the gate to my site. The lights were on in the security building, but I couldn't see no one sitting behind the security desk. Through the big windows, there is always supposed to be someone in that office. I walked back into the area where the workers wait to get picked up and taken back to their respective subsites. I was the only one there. Shift change usually brings a crowd. I called my office to let the night crew know I was there. No answer. No worries. They were probably busy. I waited for 20 more minutes, calling back to my office several times, never getting an answer. I finally decided to walk back to my subsite. Now, when you walk through an industrial site, there is always noise, trucks moving around, people yelling, general tool noise in the background. But this morning there was none of that. It was like walking through an industrial ghost town, and the silence was getting to me. I was starting to get a little jittery. No sound. I dislike loud places when they are silent. I jumped when I saw something crossing the road ahead of me. The movement in the dark stillness was like someone screaming bang at the top of their lungs in a quiet study hall. It was Rocket, the half-tame raccoon that lived on the site, out on his late-night search for food, before retiring for the day. No trash can is safe from Rocket's search. "You stupid arsehole!" I screamed at the oversized rat, my voice echoing in the silence. I was a little caught up in my emotions and didn't appreciate being spooked. Rocket stopped and looked at me before returning to the trundling across the road. I took a deep breath and kept walking towards my office and the subsite it sat on. I was yet again surprised to find no one was there. Very strange, as we ran a 24-hour facility. I looked high and low, but could find no trace of anyone in the office. I left and started walking the site. I found the site's work truck out next to one of our containment areas. It was idling, and the door was half open, the interior light shining on an empty cab and no answers. I got into the pickup truck and drove back to the subsite's office. Still, nobody there. I was starting to panic at this point. Where the hell was everyone? I waited for about another hour at work. With no one showing up, I found a logbook, and the last entry at midnight, mentioning unusual distortions in our security cameras. It was listing which cameras were showing the distortions, when it abruptly stopped mid-word, like whoever was writing just said, "To hell with it." A thought occurred to me. That monk was the only thing I had seen on the road. It was heading back towards my part of town. The thought that my family might be in some sort of danger burned across my mind. I was out of my office as fast as I could move. I left the work truck at the site gates, just like I found it. Engine idling, door half open. I ran to my truck in a heartbeat, and I floored it out of the parking lot. I got back on the empty highway, pushing my truck as hard as it would go. I screamed and punched the steering wheel every time I hit 105 on the speedometer, because that's when the governor kicked in, and backed my speed down to a safer rate. The fear and frustration was making me irrational and angry. I passed the point where I had seen the monk. Part of me was planning to run him over if I saw him. I don't know why. He might have just been some crackhead out cosplaying, but part of me felt like the monk was connected to this. I was cursing out the stupid idiot who had invented the automotive speed governors, and the stupid idiot who had thought to put one on a truck, with an engine that held a reputation for going fast. When I realized that the radio was on, it wasn't Bluetooth to my phone, and it wasn't on the satellite radio mode either. It was playing regular old AM radio. It sounded like static, but I could hear something in the static. Kind of like when you are listening to the radio and leave one station's broadcast area and enter the edge of another. Faint ghosts in the white noise. I was only half listening to it when something else came on. That must have had a little more juice to its transmission. I caught every other word, most of it getting eaten by the static. The voice sounded like I don't know what. I had never heard anything like it before. I guess you could sort of say it sounded like white noise, moulded into words.
Complete. Souls. Ran. Do not fear. Gather. Night. Dominance.
My breath caught in my throat. As little information as that provided, it was enough to terrify me. I didn't know what I was going to find at home, and the anxiety of it started to make me physically ill. I took my exit and shot up the road to my neighbourhood, running every red light I came across. I left my truck running in the driveway and ran into my house. My empty house. No kids getting ready for school. No wife making Nutella toast for breakfast. No baby sleeping in her crib. I screamed. I cried. I punched holes in the wall. Not them. Not my wife. Not my kids. Please no. I broke down, and I didn't stop sobbing until an hour or two later. My wife's SUV was in the driveway, but I made a half-hearted attempt to look for them. The kids' school, the grocery stores, the strip malls. I searched them all, and I didn't find a single soul. I lost my temper in the parking lot of a Target superstore. I grabbed the handgun I keep in my truck and emptied the magazine into the front of the building. I grabbed the spare magazine I keep in the glove box and emptied that into a Honda Civic parked near me. The gunshots sounded like bombs going off in the dead quiet of the morning. No one came. After 15 minutes of pacing and screaming like a madman, begging the universe to send my family back to me, and cursing the monk with every foul word I had, and promising to rip his face off with my bare hands, I collapsed. I sobbed with my face pressing into the concrete. It wasn't fair. Why did this happen? Where is my family? Where is everyone? And why did I have to be alone? I stopped crying eventually. I think I was just out of tears at that point, and I sat in the parking lot for what felt like a couple of hours, just waiting for something to happen. But of course nothing did. The words on the radio came back to me. One stuck out in my head. Night. They are coming back tonight, to get the ones like me, ones they missed. I have to assume there are more of us. Otherwise, why would they be coming back? For one dude, who is barely hanging on to his sanity. It would be a waste of time. I am sitting on my couch right now, writing this in the hope that someone else will see this. I don't know if anyone will. The last thing I saw on Reddit was posted at 3:30 this morning, and my Facebook feed is dead. The local channels are all showing blank screens. I have my phone connected to my TV, and I have been watching videos of my wife and kids. I miss their voices. I have spent most of the day loading shotguns and rifles, cleaning them and doing function checks on them. I don't know if I can kill one of them, but I aim to try, and I am assuming there are a lot of them. Otherwise, how would you drain the world of people with only one monk? I am under no illusion that I am going to survive tonight. I don't know if they will kill me or disappear me, but I am planning on taking a couple of them with me. I hope to see my wife and kids again. Good night, and good luck. Just a quick update. I've got mason jars filled with tannerite and carpenter's nails, sitting on piles of flagstone around my yard. They don't seem to like them so far, and I've learned to avoid them. I am in the attic right now. I've got some old dumbbells sitting half on the access door. The second one of them pulls that door down, he's catching 35 pounds of pig iron with his teeth. They keep trying to get into my head. I can feel their voices whispering to me, telling me to be calm, give up and go to them. They sound frustrated though. I think this is supposed to be easier for them, somehow. Maybe I'm special. I don't know. I would bet that you are too, since you are still around reading this. I am so tired at this point. I have been slamming Red Bulls, but I'm starting to crash. I just want to curl up and go to sleep, but I still have plenty of ammo, and I can't take it with me. I can tell you that they can be killed. They soak up more bullets than people, but they can be killed by rifle fire. It just takes a lot of it. I seem to be having best luck aiming center of mass. Off-the-shelf explosives like black powder and tannerite hurt them pretty bad too. I have a couple of Molotovs, but I am waiting for the right moment, like when they get into the attic with me.